Welcome to Exploring the American Frontier, and today we are in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, and we stumbled upon Colonel William Crawford's cabin. Kind of a hidden spot. As I'm going through this, I'm finding out that a lot of these places have turned into parks. Let's go ahead and check out what Colonel William Crawford's cabin's like. Colonel William Crawford was born on the 2nd of September, 1722, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He was the son of William Crawford Sr. and his wife, Honora Grimes, who were Scottish-Irish farmers. In 1749, Colonel William Crawford became acquainted with George Washington, then a young surveyor somewhat younger than Crawford. He accompanied Washington on surveying trips and learned the trade. In 1755, Crawford served in the Braddock expedition with the rank of ensign. Like Washington, he survived the disastrous Battle of the Monongahela. During the French and Indian War, he served in Washington's Virginia Regiment, guarding the Virginia frontier against Native American raiding parties. In 1758, Crawford was a member of General John Forbes' army, which captured Fort Duquesne, where Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, now stands. He continued to serve in the military, taking part in Pontiac's War in 1763. In 1765, Crawford built a cabin on the Braddock's Road along the Youghiogheny River in what is now Connellsville, Fayette County, Pennsylvania. His wife and 3 children joined him there the following year. Crawford supported himself as a farmer and fur trader. When the 1768 Treaty of Fort Stanwix with the Iroquois opened up additional land for the settlement, Crawford worked again as a surveyor, locating land for settlers and speculators. Governor Robert Dinwiddie had promised bounty land to the men of Washington's Virginia Regiment for their service in the French and Indian War. In 1770, Crawford and Washington traveled down the Ohio River to choose the land to be given to the regiment's veterans. The area selected was near what is now Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Crawford also made a western scouting trip in 1773 with Lord Dunmore. Governor of Virginia, Washington, could not accompany them because of the sudden death of his stepdaughter. At the outbreak of Dunmore's War in 1774, Crawford received a major's commission from Lord Dunmore. He built Fort Fincastle at present-day Wheeling, West Virginia. He also led an expedition which destroyed 2 Mingo villages near present Steubenville, Ohio, in retaliation for Chief Logan's raids into Virginia. Crawford's service to Virginia in Dunmore's War was controversial in Pennsylvania, since the colonies were engaged in a bitter dispute over their borders near Fort Pitt. Crawford had been a justice of the peace in Pennsylvania since 1771, first for Bedford County, then for Westmoreland County when it was established in 1773. Beginning in 1776, Crawford served as a surveyor and justice for Virginia's short-lived Youghiogheny County. When the American Revolutionary War began, Crawford originally was commissioned as a lieutenant colonel in the 5th Virginia Regiment on February 13, 1776. Crawford would continue to serve in the Light Infantry Corps at the Battle of Brandywine and Germantown. On October 11, 1777, militia units from the Virginia counties of Prince William, Culpeper, Loudoun, and Berkeley were formed into a brigade and placed under Crawford's command. However, as the war on the western frontier intensified late in 1777, Crawford was transferred to the Western Department of the Continental Army. On November 20, 1777, Congress requested that Washington send Colonel William Crawford to Pittsburgh to take command under Brigadier General Hand of the Continental Troops and Militia in the Western Department. He served at Fort Pitt under General Edward Hand and Lachlan McIntosh. Crawford was present at the Treaty of Fort Pitt in 1778 and helped to build Fort Lorenz and Fort McIntosh that year. Resources were scarce on the frontier. However, Fort Lorenz was abandoned in 1779. In 1780, Crawford visited Congress to appeal for more funds for the western frontier. In 1781, he retired from military service. In 1782, General William Irvine persuaded Crawford to lead an expedition against the enemy Indian villages along the Sandusky River. Before leaving, on the 16th of May, he made out his will and testament. His son, John Crawford, his son-in-law, William Harrison, and his nephew and namesake, William Crawford, also joined the expedition. After his election as commander of the expedition, Crawford led about 500 volunteers deep into the American Indian Territory with the hopes of surprising them. However, the Indians and British allies at Detroit had learned about the expedition in advance and brought about 440 men to the Sandusky to oppose the Americans. After a day of indecisive fighting, the Americans found themselves surrounded. During the confused retreat, Crawford and dozens of his men were captured. The Indians executed many of them in retaliation for the Gnaddenhutton massacre earlier in the year, in which 96 peaceful Christian Indian men, women, and children had been murdered by Pennsylvania militiamen. Crawford's execution was brutal. He was tortured for at least 2 hours before he was burned at the stake. His nephew and son-in-law were also captured and executed. The war ended shortly thereafter, but Crawford's horrific execution was widely publicized in the United States, worsening the already strained relationship between the Native Americans and European Americans. The French and Indian Wars, 1754 through 1763, the Connellsville Connection. Major General Edward Braddock and his army on the way to capture Fort Duquesne at the forks of the Ohio crossed the Youghiogheny River at Stewart's Crossing, now Connellsville, where we stand. The army camped in this area from June 28th to the 30th in 1755. During this period, the British Army baked bread for the soldiers the last time before the attack on Fort Duquesne. Expecting victory, Braddock's army was surprised and was defeated by the French and Indian forces on July 9th, 1755 at the Battle of the Wilderness, also known as the Battle of Monongahela, 7 miles from Fort Duquesne. Outstanding future leaders in Braddock's army included Colonel George Washington, Captain Horatio Gates, Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Gage, and civilian Daniel Boone. The French and Indian War became a training ground for the American Revolutionary War, 1775 through 1783. On here we have Major General Edward Braddock and some pictures. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Capture those. Check them out. Here's Major General Braddock. There we have the rivers here. And covering his face there was George Washington. Alright, no trespassing, but let's go check out the rest of the scenes here. Colonel Crawford's cabin, property of Connellsville Historical Society. It's the home of Colonel William Crawford from 1766 to 1782. He was a pioneer, patriot, civil servant, reconstructed in It's reconstructed in 1976 by Connellsville Area Historical Society and the Fayette Commissioners. Cool, man. I'll have to try to see if we can get in here one day. Let's go take a peek though. Looks like there's a window. British Major General Edward Braddock camped here at Stewart's Crossing on the banks of the Youghiogheny River, June 28th through 30th, 1755. His goal was to reach Fort Duquesne, Pittsburgh, and drive the French from the area. He was accompanied by Colonel Militia and volunteer aide-de-camp George Washington. On July 9, 1755, Braddock's army was defeated by the combined French and Indian forces about 9 miles from Fort Duquesne. Braddock was mortally wounded in the battle. Let's go back in and check this out here. See if we can see inside what it was like. So as you take a look in this tiny little house here, you can get a good idea what it would be like for the colonel and his wife and 3 children to be spending the cold nights down by the river, the Youghiogheny River, being protected from the elements and Indian raids in this tiny little 1-room cabin. It looks like down here would be the dining, and there would be a stove, and then upstairs there's the ladder, the loft area where you would sleep. You would want to sleep upstairs so that none of the critters could get into the encampment there and get you at night while you're sleeping, you know. So there, as you go up, you see the fireplace, it looks like, in the back, and there's a stove, and they had maybe a little toolbox or a box.
And as we
for
leave the
storage
trail,
on the
we
left.
find out that you know, exploring the American frontier can happen anywhere in your neighborhood. All these things are hidden out there, and we can't let them be destroyed because so far they're intact, hidden, tucked away, thrown off into the societies, parks, and recreation centers. But cool enough to get out and explore the frontier, man. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to share, like, and subscribe for more exploring the American frontier. About William Crawford, please come on and check out this video before I get killed by these geese. I'm about to get murdered by geese. Holy shit! Holy shit! They're gonna fucking kill me! They're gonna kill us! They're gonna kill us! They're gonna kill us! So I just ran back to my car like a little girl in front of these geese. Murderous geese. I'm sorry, I wanted to look at William Crawford's house. I didn't mean. I literally stumbled upon you and like stood right beside you, and you were cool. You waited till we were leaving before you snapped out. They got all tough right at the end. I stood there with the geese and hung out with them, and they were cool with it. And then waited till the end. What did you say? You're not welcome here anymore. We got, look at her flipping. She is pissed. All right, we don't want to challenge the geese anymore. We don't want to challenge the geese anymore. Farewell. Dude, the geese is coming back to challenge us again. Look, she's like, what? I'm telling you. The sass on her. Sassy Sally, holy crap.